He was a young billionaire who had everything: money, fame, and power. But the one thing missing in his life was love. Everything changed the day he crossed paths with a poor roadside food seller whose kindness would touch his heart in ways he never imagined. In a small village far from the noise of the city lived a young woman named Stella. She was 24, the only child of her poor but loving parents. From the moment she was born, she was their dream and their hope. Life, however, was never easy. When Stella was a teenager, her parents couldn't afford her school fees. Many times, she was sent home in tears while her classmates continued studying. She often sat under the old mango tree, asking herself why life was so unfair. Her mother would hold her hands and say, "My daughter, no matter how hard it gets, you must finish your education. Even if I have to sell my clothes, I'll make sure you study." Those words stayed in Stella's heart forever, but poverty was like a wall that stood between her and her dreams. By the time she turned 17, she could see her parents growing weaker from years of labor. One night, she watched them sit silently, their faces tired and hopeless. Her heart broke. That was the moment she decided to change their fate. "I cannot let them suffer anymore," she whispered to herself. "I'll go to the city and work hard to give them a better life." That night, she packed her small bag and told her parents about her decision. Her father warned her gently about the hardships of the city, but gave her his blessing. Her mother hugged her tightly and told her to never forget where she came from and to treat others with kindness. With tears in her eyes, Stella promised she would. Then she walked down the dusty road, her parents waving behind her with hopeful smiles. It was the day she left her village with nothing but courage and faith. In the busy city of Lagos lived a man named Williams. At just 30, he was one of the youngest billionaires in the country, the proud owner of a powerful real estate company. He had luxury cars, mansions, and respect from everyone, but inside, he felt empty. Every night, he sat alone in his grand house surrounded by gold and glass, whispering to himself that money could buy everything except peace and love. Beautiful women approached him, but he knew they were drawn to his wealth, not his heart. Still, he believed that somewhere out there was a woman who would love him for who he was, not for what he had. One afternoon, destiny quietly began to work. When Stella arrived in Lagos, she was overwhelmed by the noise, the rush, and the unfamiliar faces. Hungry and tired, she spotted a small roadside food stand run by an elderly woman. The smell of rice and stew drew her in. She greeted the woman politely and ordered food. Before she could finish eating, the shop filled up with customers. The old woman struggled to serve everyone at once. Without thinking twice, Stella stood up, rolled up her sleeves, and began to help. She served plates, poured water, and wiped tables, while the old woman watched in amazement. When the crowd finally cleared, the old woman smiled and said softly, "My daughter, may God bless you. You helped me like your own mother." Stella replied humbly, "I only did what was right, Ma." When she tried to pay for her meal, the woman refused. "You don't need to pay me," she said. "Your kindness has paid me already." Then she asked where Stella lived. Stella lowered her head and said quietly, "Nowhere, Ma. I just arrived in Lagos today. I came to look for work." The woman's heart melted. She took Stella's hands and said, "Then stay with me. Work by my side. I will pay you every month, and together we will not lack." Tears filled Stella's eyes as she hugged the woman tightly, thanking her over and over again. That night, Stella slept in a safe home for the first time in the city, whispering prayers of gratitude. The next morning, as she stood by the food stand, she called her parents to tell them she had found safety and a job. While she was still smiling, from the call, a black SUV pulled up in front of the shop. The car door opened, and a tall, calm man stepped out. Williams. He was there to buy food for his workers, but when his eyes met Stella's, something inside him shifted. Her gentle face, her quiet eyes, her humble posture, all of it disarmed him. "Good morning, sir," Stella greeted softly. He blinked and nodded. "Good morning, young lady. What is your name?" "I'm Stella, sir," she said. "What would you like to eat?" He repeated her name under his breath, as though memorizing it. "5 portions of rice and meat, please." She packed the food neatly and handed it over to his workers. As she gave him the bag, their eyes met again. Her smile was simple, but it warmed his heart. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. Williams hesitated for a second, then replied, "Thank you, Stella," and got into his car. As the SUV drove away, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Her face lingered in his mind. Her voice echoed in his memory. He leaned back in his seat and whispered, "Who is she? Why does she feel so different from everyone else?" That evening, he sat alone in his house, staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. No matter how hard he tried, He couldn't push Stella from his mind. She's kind, humble, real, he whispered. I must see her again. From that day, their worlds, once far apart, began to move closer. Stella's kindness had touched a stranger's heart, and that stranger's heart was about to change her life forever. Mama, what is wrong? You don't look happy today. I hope all is well, Stella asked, her voice filled with concern. The old woman sighed deeply and shook her head. My daughter, I have been given notice to leave this shop. The land has been sold to a rich man in Lagos. Stella froze, her eyes wide in disbelief. What? Mama, are you serious? How many days did they give you? By the end of this month, the woman whispered, her voice trembling, and I don't know where to go. My daughter, I am confused. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Stella quickly held her hands. Oh, Mama, don't cry. God will not forsake us. We'll find a way, she said softly, though her own heart was heavy with fear. Just then, they heard the sound of car engines. 2 black SUVs and a large Jeep stopped in front of the shop. Stella wiped her tears and looked out. Mama, this is the same SUV that came before, the one that bought food when you weren't around, she whispered. The old woman forced a faint smile. Maybe they've come again to buy food. Moments later, 3 men stepped out. Williams, his business partner, and the landowner. The landowner pointed toward the shop and said, The land starts from where this food seller is standing, all the way to the back. She has been here a long time, but I've given her notice to leave. Williams paused, his eyes landing on Stella and the old woman. You mean this is the land you're selling to me? He asked quietly. Yes, mister. Williams, the man replied. Williams nodded slowly and walked around to inspect the land. After a few minutes, he confirmed it was good and turned back to the landowner. Proceed with the payment, he said firmly. Then, turning to the old woman, his tone softened. Mother, don't rush to pack your things. Take your time, look for another place, and when you find it, let me know. I'll pay for it. He took out a card and handed it to her. Call me immediately once you find a new space. The old woman's eyes filled with tears. She took the card with both hands. Thank you, my son. May God bless you. Williams looked briefly at Stella before walking back to his car. As the vehicles drove away, Stella stood quietly, her heart racing. Why does this man care so much for us, she wondered. That night, Williams sat in his office, restless. If I buy that land, where will they go? He whispered to himself. I can't throw them out. His thoughts drifted to Stella. Why does this girl trouble my heart? She's different, so kind, so real. He smiled faintly. Tomorrow after work I'll visit them. I must fight for what I truly want. Meanwhile, at the shop, Stella and the old woman sat in silence as the evening breeze blew softly. Mama, Stella said gently, did he really say he'd pay for another shop? Yes, my daughter, the old woman replied with a smile. That young man is different. I believe he was sent by God. He was gentle and kind. He didn't push us out even though he owns the land. Yes, Mama, Stella nodded. He was the same the first time I met him. He spoke to me with respect. I think he's an engineer. The old woman smiled faintly. I don't know what he is, but may God bless him. That night at his family home, Williams's mother called him for dinner. After eating, she looked at him seriously. My son, when will you bring a woman home? You have everything, but you need a wife. Williams sighed and smiled faintly. Mom, I've met many women, but none are the kind I seek. They only want my money. I'll marry when I find true love. His mother smiled warmly. We only want your happiness, my son. Later that night, as Williams drove home, only one image filled his heart. Stella's face. The next morning, Williams sat at his dining table, lost in thought. It's time to take a step, he whispered. I must let her know how I feel. He got ready, entered his SUV, and drove through the busy streets. When he reached the old woman's shop, he stopped and rolled down his window. Madam, good morning, he said politely. Please prepare food for my workers. I can't wait to collect it, so send someone to deliver it. The old woman hurried over. Yes, sir. Please give me the address. Williams wrote it clearly on a sheet of paper and handed it to her. Make sure it gets there quickly. She nodded, clutching the paper tightly as he drove off. A short while later, Stella arrived at the shop. The woman quickly handed her the address. My daughter, take this food to the man who drives the black SUV, the one who bought this land. He needs it at his worksite. Stella nodded. Okay, Mama. She took the food carefully, got on a public bus, and headed for the address, unaware that fate was about to change her life forever. When she arrived at the construction site, she walked carefully across the dusty ground. Suddenly, something shiny caught her eye. She bent down and picked up a wallet. Curious, she opened it slightly and froze. Inside was an ID card with the name St. Williams. Her heart skipped. "This belongs to him," she thought. Looking around, she saw him standing not far away, giving instructions to his workers. Holding the wallet tightly, Stella walked toward him and said softly, "Sir, please, I think this belongs to you." Stella looked at her mother with worry. "Mama, what's wrong? You don't look happy today. I hope all is well." The old woman sighed deeply and shook her head. "My daughter, I've been given notice to leave this shop. The land has been sold to a rich man in Lagos." Stella froze, her eyes wide. "What? Mama, are you serious? How many days did they give you?" "By the end of this month," the old woman whispered, her voice breaking. "And I don't know where to go." Tears filled her eyes as she said, "My daughter, I am confused." Stella held her mother's hands tightly. "Oh, Mama, don't cry. God will not forsake us. We will find a way." But even as she spoke, her own heart trembled with fear. She tried to hide it, but tears glistened in her eyes. Just then, the sound of engines roared outside. 2 black SUVs and a big Jeep stopped in front of the shop. Stella quickly wiped her eyes. "Mama, this is the same black SUV that came the other day to buy food when you weren't around." The old woman forced a faint smile. "Maybe they've come again to buy food." Moments later, 3 men stepped out of the cars: Williams, his business partner, and the landowner. The landowner pointed toward the shop. "The land starts from where that food cellar is all the way to the back. I've already told her to leave." Williams looked shocked. "You mean this is the land you're selling to me?" "Yes, Mr. Williams," the landowner said firmly. Williams inspected the area with his partner and then nodded in approval. "Good," he said. "Meet my admin to process the payment." Then he turned to the old woman and said gently, "Mother, don't rush to pack your things. Take your time. When you find another place, let me know. I'll pay for it." He handed her his business card. The woman received it with both hands, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, my son. May God bless you." Williams smiled slightly, looked at Stella for a long moment, then entered his car and drove away. That evening, Williams sat in his office, restless. "If I buy that land, where will the old woman and her daughter stay?" he whispered. His thoughts drifted to Stella. "Why does this girl trouble my heart so much? She could not even look at me, but still, my heart burns for her." Meanwhile, Stella and her mother sat quietly at the shop. "Mama, did he really say he'd pay for another shop?" "Yes, my daughter, that young man is different," the woman said softly. "He was sent by God." That night, William's mother called him home. When he arrived, she said, "My son, when will you bring a woman home as your wife?" William sighed. "Mom, I haven't found the right one. Many women came for my money, not for me, but I will find her soon." His mother smiled with pride. The next morning, Williams drove past the shop again. "Good morning, madam," he greeted. "Please send food for my workers at the site. I can't wait." The old woman nodded eagerly, took the address, and promised to deliver it. Later, she handed the paper to Stella. "My daughter, go deliver this food to the man in the black SUV." "Okay, Mama," Stella said, unaware her life was about to change. At the site, as she walked toward the workers, something shiny caught her eye. She bent down and picked up a wallet. Inside was William's ID card. She looked around, but no one seemed to notice. Holding it tightly, she walked toward him. "Sir, I think this belongs to you." Williams turned in surprise, touched his pocket, and realized it was missing. "Where did you find it?" "In the dust, near your car," Stella said softly. He looked at her, moved by her honesty. Any other person would have hidden this wallet, he thought. But this girl brought it back. He said aloud, "Thank you, Stella. You don't know what this means to me." Stella smiled gently. "You're welcome, sir. Here's the food you ordered." Williams handed her some money, but she refused. "No, sir. I didn't return it for money. It was the right thing to do." She turned and walked away. Williams stood frozen, watching her leave, admiration in his eyes. That night, he couldn't stop thinking about her. "She returned my wallet with so much money inside. Who does that anymore? She's honest. Different. Maybe she's the one." Later that week, his business partner called. "Let's begin construction on that land we bought." Williams felt a heavy weight in his chest. "If I allow it, the old woman and Stella will be homeless," he thought. "No, I can't." He looked out the window at the Lagos skyline. "I have wealth, but what is the use if I can't help someone in need? Stella's honesty deserves more. I'll make sure she and her mother are safe." The next morning, he drove back to the shop. "Mama," he said warmly, "I came not just to buy food, but to talk to you. Soon this land will be needed for construction, but I can't let you suffer. I've arranged a 2-bedroom flat for you and Stella in my estate. Tonight my driver will take you there." The old woman gasped, tears streaming down her face. "Ah, my son, is this true?" "Yes, Mama," Williams replied. "You'll have peace, and I'll help you open another shop." Overwhelmed, she fell to her knees, but he quickly helped her up. "Please don't kneel. You deserve honor." Stella's eyes shone with gratitude. "Sir, you've done more than we could ever ask. Thank you." Williams smiled softly. "Stella, your honesty showed me who you are. You and your mother deserve better." That night the driver arrived to take them. The old woman whispered. "Ah, so it's true." "Yes, Mama," Stella said, holding her hand tightly. "God has answered our prayers." When they arrived at the estate, they were speechless. The buildings were beautiful, surrounded by flowers and bright lights. The driver led them to a clean 2-bedroom flat. Williams came out to greet them, smiling. "Welcome, Mama. Welcome, Stella. This is your home now." Inside, everything was new. The furniture, the beds, the kitchen. The old woman broke down in tears. "Oh Lord, who am I that you remember me?" she cried. Williams lifted her gently. "It's okay, Mama. You deserve happiness." That night, Stella and her mother lay in their new beds, surrounded by peace and comfort. For the first time in a long time, their tears were not of sorrow, but of joy. The joy of being remembered, of being loved, and of finding kindness in a world that had once forgotten them. Stella stared at the ceiling, her heart warm and peaceful. She whispered softly, "This man is not just kind. He is sent by God." For the first time in many years, the old woman slept soundly inside a house they could finally call their own. The next morning, Williams came to visit Stella and the old woman. As he stepped out of his car, both women smiled with joy. "Good morning, Mama. Good morning, Stella." He greeted warmly. "Good morning, my son," the old woman replied. "Good morning, sir," Stella said shyly. "I hope you both slept well," Williams asked. "Yes, sir, we did. Thank you for your kindness," Stella replied softly. The old woman added, "God bless you, my son." Williams smiled and said, "I came to invite you both to my home today. I want you to see where I live and have breakfast with me." They agreed, and soon he drove them to his mansion. The large house was bright and welcoming. A maid led them to the dining room, where plates of warm food were already waiting. As they ate together, light conversation filled the air, but Williams's mind was restless. His eyes kept drifting toward Stella. Every word she spoke, and every gentle smile touched his heart deeply. Finally, he set down his spoon and looked directly at her. "Stella," he said softly. She looked up surprised. "Yes, sir?" He took a deep breath. "From the first day I met you, I knew you were different. Your honesty, kindness, and humility have touched me in ways I can't explain. I can't hide it anymore. Stella, I want you to be my wife." Stella froze, her hand trembling slightly. "Sir, me?" she whispered. "Yes, Stella," he said gently. "From the day you returned my wallet, I knew you were not like others. But it's more than that. I can't stop thinking about you. You are the woman I've been praying for." Tears filled Stella's eyes. For a moment she couldn't speak. The old woman reached for her hand and said softly, "My daughter, Mr. Williams is a good man. I'm sure he will treat you right." Stella looked at Williams again, tears falling freely. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Yes, I will marry you." Williams's face lit up with joy. "Stella," he said twice, smiling deeply. He reached across the table and gently held her hand. The following day, Williams told Stella and the old woman, "Before we visit my parents, I want to make sure you both have all you need." He drove them to a large store in Lagos and bought Stella new clothes, fine shoes, and a beautiful handbag. For the old woman, he bought colorful wrappers, head ties, and new shoes. When they returned home, Stella opened the bags with wide eyes. "So much kindness," she whispered. "How will I ever thank you?" William stood at the door with a smile. "By staying yourself, Stella, that's all I ask." The old woman raised her hands and blessed him. "My son, you will never lack. God will honor you as you have honored us." A few minutes later, Stella came out dressed in one of the new gowns. Her hair was neatly brushed, her shoes shone, and her handbag rested on her arm. She looked radiant. Williams couldn't take his eyes off her. "Now you are ready, Stella," he said softly. "Let's go." They drove to his parents' mansion. As they arrived, Williams's mother saw them from the balcony and smiled with joy. She hurried downstairs. "My son," she called, then turned to Stella. So this is the woman who has captured your heart? Williams held Stella's hand proudly. Yes, Mom. This is Stella, the woman I want to marry. Stella bent respectfully. Good afternoon, Ma. His mother lifted her gently. My daughter, you are welcome. From today you are like my own child. Just then, Williams's father entered, smiling. Williams, you have done well. Stella, you are welcome to this family. The house filled with joy and laughter. They talked for hours and his parents were overjoyed. That night, as they drove home, Williams smiled. You see, Stella? My parents already love you. This is just the beginning of the life we will build together. Stella looked out the window, tears of happiness in her eyes. Truly, God has changed my story, she whispered. A week later, Williams said, now that you've met my parents, it's time I meet yours. Williams, Stella said softly, my parents live in a poor village. Their home is small. I don't know how you'll feel when you see it. Williams smiled and took her hand. I'm not marrying your background, Stella. I'm marrying your heart. Your parents gave me the most wonderful woman. That's all that matters. That weekend, they traveled to Stella's village with Mama Grace. Her parents were sitting outside their small mud house when they saw the black SUV stop. Her mother ran forward in surprise. Stella! My child! Mom, I missed you, Stella said, hugging her tightly. Her father came closer, looking curiously at the visitors. Who are these people? Father, Stella said warmly. This is Williams, the man I want to marry. And this is Mama Grace, the woman who helped me when I had nowhere to go. Her mother took Mama Grace's hands, tears in her eyes. Thank you for caring for our daughter. May God bless you. Please don't thank me, Mama Grace replied gently. Stella was a blessing to me too. Her father turned to Williams. My son, who are you to our daughter? Williams bowed slightly. Good afternoon, Sir Ma. My name is Williams, and I've come to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. The man blinked in surprise. Marriage? They invited him to sit, and Williams spoke from his heart. Your daughter is honest, humble, and kind. I will be proud to have her as my wife. I promise to come back with my parents for a proper introduction. Stella's father smiled and held his hand. If she has found favor in your eyes, then you have my blessing. Joy filled the air. They ate together, laughed, and shared stories. Williams enjoyed the simple food and said, This tastes better than anything money can buy. The next morning, before leaving, Mama Grace hugged Stella's mother. Thank you for raising such a good daughter. And thank you for taking care of her, her mother replied. When they returned to Lagos, Williams began the traditional marriage process. Both families exchanged blessings, and soon, a grand wedding was held. The hall was filled with love and celebration. As Stella walked down the aisle, tears of joy filled her eyes. Williams smiled proudly, knowing he had found a treasure. After the wedding, Williams built a beautiful house for Stella's parents and ensured they lived comfortably. He also helped Mama Grace open a modern restaurant named Mama Grace Kitchen, where she no longer had to work hard. Later, he surprised her with a car and driver. Mama, from now on, others will serve you, he said warmly. The old woman wept with gratitude. You have made my old age sweet. Years passed, and happiness never left their home. Stella became the mother of two beautiful children, and together they lived a life built on love and gratitude. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Stella looked at Williams and smiled. Do you remember the day we met at the roadside? How could I forget? He said, holding her hand. That day changed my life forever. They both laughed softly as the light faded into the evening sky. Proof that true love is not found in wealth or status, but in hearts that choose kindness. True love is not measured by money or appearance, but by honesty, compassion, and the courage to love without expecting anything in return. Stella's honesty opened the door to her destiny, and Williams's kindness transformed both their lives. No matter where you come from or what you've lost, kindness can open the door to your miracle. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more inspiring stories every week. Your support helps us keep sharing love, hope, and beautiful lessons with the world.